Hello and welcome to the DNX Show. Hey guys, hey Jeremiah, Larry, AI Nakamoto. Hey, yeah, we were gonna talk a little bit about Darpan's article on AI. I see. Let's get Arif up here. Anybody, raise your hand too if you'd like to join the conversation. We're just gonna be chatting, me and Arif. I think Josh is gonna show up too. Of course, we'd like to have. You know, I wish it was just open where you could just start speaking. Maybe that'll happen someday. Let's see. Invite to speak. Inviting Jeremiah too. Larry, I know the chances of you coming up, but still, it was nice to hear you the other day. And Wolfgang, I wondered what was happening with the .co. Anybody else is welcome to come on up. I see GPJ handling the ENS stuff. I'm had a call with a couple guys over at ENS last Friday. Really nice guys. Greg and Simon. Jerry, I'm sure Gary knows them. Hey, Gary, what's happening with you? Thanks, Gary. I am trying to get Arif. He's co-hosting with me today. I appreciate it, Gary. You know, it is. It's like I want everybody to just join in, especially this room. You know, I know in the law room, and the law room is, let's face the music. I used to listen on Clubhouse at some of these IP law rooms, and you have a limited audience. Even though sometimes, and I think IP law more interesting than domain name law because it's just really a subset of it. That It's limited. Some people just don't. It's like sitting in a law class, and I mean, not the domain name law show isn't more like a law class, but some of the IP rooms that I used to participate in or listen to, you have a couple lawyers talking, and just a lot of folks don't care. I mean, and that's why I thought I'm not an attorney, so at least I can add the normal bullshit to the domain name law room. But I totally get there's a limited audience there. I like the whole social feeling, like Arif put together with Domain Social. So Arif, nice, thanks for joining me and being a co-host today. What's up? Yeah, I think there's a hey Jeremiah, thanks for joining, and we just want to do this like Josh and I, and I'm sure he'll probably jump on here. We just wanted to really have the open conversation, but I always put together a bunch of shit to ask him because you can't, since people just can't open their mic, they don't want to raise their hand for some reason. It's different than here as it was on Clubhouse, where everyone doesn't mind chiming in. Of course, different, you know, uh, I was hoping, we have all that audience and then a lot of people that were never familiar with Clubhouse, just here on X. But Jeremiah, what's happening? What's going on at Catches and what you're working on? I know you so much is going on, and you're not here to talk about that. But what is going on like daily? What are you working on Catches on a daily now? You know, yeah, see, a lot of people are doing newsletters and stuff, and I didn't join this Aaron Meistat's newsletter about startups. I think I will, but and I'd like to for for friends to see what they're what content they're spitting out. And Jeremiah, I think it's awesome to be able to turn on and turn off, what a newsletter. But let me ask you, what were some of the topics you guys were talking about this morning? I mean, Arif mentioned it too. What's on the minds of domainers? Well, you're so it's like you're shy, and I know you're not when you're fucking somewhere else. Hey, and that's it for me. Well, hold on, we're all going to stay here and talk about some of these big sales, and I want to hear about Zoot's 3-word sale. You said was pretty big, 6 figures. I know, so that tells me it wasn't Ucoin, which was a big one, but hey, Josh is here. I mean, he was just hanging out over there in the UK with family and stuff. So thanks for even popping in, Josh. But so what's happening? Do you have a pretty smooth trip over there, and what's going on? Yeah. Well, Josh, while you're gone for these next couple months, is I may be going to Brazil too towards the end of the year. When one of us is, traveling, of course, just pop in at your leisure. We'll expect, try to have some co-hosts. That I really appreciate Arif being here today and the other guys for joining. But I'll try to always have, basically, just sort of luck if you show up, meaning just be casual. But it is good to, we're still going to talk domains, and we know you're always into it. But hey, so while we're all here, this Ucoin, if anybody wants to check out our outline, you can check it out. We do have an outline to the show, just so we have some shit to talk about. That's DNX.show. Of course, I use DNXshow.com too. But I guess before I get to that, I wanted to ask Jeremiah. So you're on catches.io, and people, oh man, he can't wait to get the .com and all this, but I wanted to ask you, so free name, I guess, just picked up the .com. They were on, maybe, I think they were on freename.io. I don't know which one they were on, or XYZ before, but how do you feel about, your decision to be on the .io? I think, me, I think it's fine. I think once you start branding as it, people in our space know. So what are your thoughts? Do you feel like you lose traffic? What are your thoughts of building a company on the .io? Yeah, and while you're here, well, what are you thinking about with any domain? Couldn't that be that's your other domain site, anydomain.com? Do you think that can be all inclusive of all your services? Yeah, if anybody's checking out, like I said, at dnx.show or dnxshow.com, when someone does that, it gives you two domain names, or they have all sorts of different domains that are pointed to their website. Just silly. You need to just select one, go with it, and because I used to do that in the other space, the weed space, where you have for delivery or for this or for that or for edible, and it's like just focus on one name and go with it. And I'm not saying this to you, Jeremiah. I'm saying it basically when I just said DNX.show. Are you going with that? It makes me think, since I have DNL show for that one and then DNXshow.com, it should just be the .coms. But anyway, so if you look at DNXshow.com, you'll see a few topics on there. I wanted to talk about Darpan's take on AI, but first, since we were talking about sales, so Ucoin sells for ucoin.com. And Josh, I think you brought it up a couple weeks ago or something, and I thought it was U, the letter U coin, and I talked about it like and kept talking, and it wasn't even the right domain name we were talking about, because I was talking about having letters. Yeah, right. I was talking about having letters in front of it, and then of course, I thought, I don't know, it makes more sense to me to have just the letter. When you say Ucoin, I never think about Ucoin. It sounds goofy. Sold for 198,000, and then the .org sells for 65 grand when the guy just picked it up on a drop a month ago, in May for 330. But Josh, do you know who sold Ucoin.com, or was it just announced by James, or do you know anything about that sell, and what do you think about it with the price? Well, I thought maybe it was announced by James Booth. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't. Trying to fix our YouTube stream. Thanks, David Michaels was telling me that only my voice is coming through on the YouTube. That's because of an OBS feature, and it's really just an extra stream that I try to put on there. So I'll try to fix that.
.com sold on Sedo yesterday for 9K. Clearly that seller wasn't paying attention, since ucoin.com sold 2 days prior for 79K. So it sold for $79,000 before.
Now, okay, I think.
I think it was in Sedo.
Now what was
You
that
said
again? They sold what was sold for 9 grand?
The plural. But did you hear what I said about ucoin.com?
It sold for, you said,
yeah, 70 on Sedo in 2016.
Yeah, I had that.
79,000.
In 2016 it sold for 79,000.
Yeah.
So whoever the seller was either paid a lot of money for it, or that that buyer dropped it, and another investor picked it up.
Well, that was 2000, in 2016, that Sedo sell for 79 grand. I see that it was previously sold for 1,050 at DropCatch 5 months earlier. So if it was that somebody bought it on DropCatch, they're the ones that sold it for 80 grand on Sedo, and that was all in 2016. And then, of course, we see, for the 200,000 or 198,000. And then, yeah, I was going to bring up, I see ucoin.org sells for 64,999. That was the one that was anyway here yesterday or 2 days ago. And then that was the one apparently when I search name bio, it shows it was a GoDaddy expired auction, sold for $330. That's a dream. That's the dream. But I was going to ask everybody here on stage with the coins, the coin.org, that they picked it up. I'd love to see a lot of these companies start using .orgs for some reason. I mean, I don't know if they will or not, but does that make you look at, I was looking at some names that end in coin.org because a lot, of course, in the .com, everything with the keyword like coin or pay or things like that, hard to find anything worthwhile. But do you think there's something with the coin in the .org, or this is just a one-off or, a rare instance?
Yeah, that was kind of the trend a little bit, especially before it took off is a big word, but it's before it started making some movement with .xyz. I think .org was where the crypto guys wanted to be, because they wanted to seem like they're, building some, impartial sort of organizations where it's like, okay, we're going to change the world economy, but it's going to be like, open and all that stuff. So org kind of fitted the profile, but like I'm talking, more than 5 years ago, so. But I think I've still seen a couple of sales. I see those names kicking around. Might even have a couple myself.
I think as crypto, adoption continues, I mean, they're making it so easier. It's so easy now to spin up a coin. So I only see, unless there's some change in technology or some regulation on a grand scale, I don't see that ending, and I see more and more coins and tokens and etc. launching over, and it's just going to become overly saturated. So yeah, I think that there's still opportunities for those names, for sure. .org is interesting. Really depends on what you want to use, what you can get.
Yeah, I wonder if .dao, if DAO is going to be
Yeah.
big soon. Only because
I don't like. I mean, crypto is going to have ups and downs. I think like it's getting a little bit, overtaken in terms of visibility for domains by AI, obviously. But the technology of crypto is kind of like AI in a certain way. Like I'm not all gung ho on specifics, and blockchain, whatever it is, names and all those things, as you all know. But the technology is certainly there, right? And that's where the names are going to go. New companies are going to be using those technologies. So I'm not big on blockchain names themselves, as I like to call them, and not Web3 domains as many do. But the actual technology is going to be there, and there's going to be all kinds of usages for it. And crypto is going to be commonplace, especially with stable coins. I think it's going to kind of replace Interact for some people, especially people outside United States, where it's we have all kinds of crazy banking fees and transfer fees and all that stuff, and PayPal is all charges me what percentages, this and that, and they jack on extra percentages for different currencies and whatever. So it's I don't know. Like I like to see a world where there's less fees. So that's where crypto is. So yeah.
And this is only going to help domain names. This is only going to help builders, because we know crypto is increasing. We see the governments and the banks and the corporations all doing more, not just with the tokens, but what they're focused on is that they're building infrastructure. Shopify just expanded. Stripe just expanded. MasterCard just expanded, all in the crypto. And so when you have a domain name and all the crypto is expanding, you can be, bearish on the blockchain names, But the thing to remember as a domainer is that every single one of your .com, .org, .io, .club, .xyz, all these names can send and receive crypto. You don't need the blockchain domain, because you can go to your GoDaddy account and you can go to your crypto wallet inside your, it's so crazy. You can go to GoDaddy and click on, update your crypto wallet in each of your domain names. And just like, if you do normal domain name management, it might be limited to like free DNSSEC for 5 domains, but you can add your 0x address to your domain, and then your domain name will show up inside the MetaMask wallet. And you can say, yeah, you can pay me directly to, whatever your domain name is. And you could be like the domainsocial.com, or you could be abcproductions.com, or you know, you could be catches.io. You can add your 0x address, and now you can be participating. And who knows what the next step is? Maybe commerce and your domain name, like your domain name automatically becomes your crypto address when you do normal commerce. And so domain names are a part of the story more than ever.
Gary,
Domain names just got supersized.
Gary, let me say, so I've been working on company with Chad Folkening, Pay Now, for over a year. And when I say that's exactly what we're doing, we've done it. And when it comes to, if you go to paynow.com, I mean, that'll populate a wallet, like you mentioned, if it's off chain. And I know you may know some of this, but a lot of people don't. If you map your domain name, like abcproductions.com, I have mapped to my wallet, but it's off chain. It's that gas free, that gasless.
DNSSEC, right?
Sure,
DNSSEC.
but you can do it through. That's one way to do it, or just do it directly through ENS, the management app, just the dash, your what you normally go to yourself, just
Oh, okay.
ens.domains. Of course, there's 2 ways to do it: off chain, which is gasless, or you can do it on chain. You do have not a lot of limitations, but there are limitations if you do it off chain. We're not going to get into it a lot here. I mean, I find it really interesting because that's what all we've been working on is, okay, yeah, merchants should get paid on their domain name. Okay. And we want to make sure that if you're, like you just mentioned, things are happening so fast. Shopify is now working with Coinbase. They're accepting stablecoin through, I think it's CDP, the developer platform. I need to look at it.
Privy, right? Are
They
you talking about the Privy acquisition?
Yeah, well, they made another announcement like 2 days ago that and you mentioned MasterCard and Visa, but the bottom line, what everybody in this room would certainly understand is, yeah, so you can get paid on your domain name, and we're certain that people will want to get paid on their domain name and send and receive money from their domain name as opposed to their long wallet address. Okay, there needs to be, in what we're working on, is more features, more value added to just saying, okay, so you can get paid on a domain name. That's fantastic, and it really is. But there's much more that can happen with your name, and you want to make sure that you. I was going to say, what type of business are you, and are you invoicing customers to get paid, and do you have customers, a lot of trusted customers that already use stablecoin, or you have a lot of one-time customers who don't use it, and then also about, do you want pay now buttons, or I call them pay now buttons because that's the company I'm working with, but basically just buttons where people can, pay their during checkout right to your domain name. But okay, so it's fucking hugely interesting. I mean, it's fantastic, and that's what I was going to ask. Well, we sort of already touched on it. Now about there was a conversation the other day about still should they call these Web3 names domain names. It's confusing. Things have evolved some, but Gary, while you're here, where do you stand on, do you call them blockchain names? Do you call them wallet addresses? How are you referring to the ENS names now? Just as Web3 names or blockchain names? What verbiage do you use?
So when we're talking about a tomato, if you're talking to a scientist, a tomato is a fruit. An avocado is a fruit. But if you're talking to a chef, a tomato and an avocado is a vegetable. And the same thing with, do we use names or do we use domains? Generally speaking, when we're talking to if we had to like merge all the domainers into one domainer and all the consumers into one consumer, I think that for the average person, it makes more sense to use the word names, because domains are sort of traditionally seen as something different. And although, I think about a domain as a domain, which is a higher, wider encompassing version of a namespace. Calling them names just, gets to the point more accurately and saves a lot of explanation. So I think it's better to call Web3 names names, even though at a high level they are domains. And
Yeah.
the important thing about crypto and Web3, and when I'm talking about crypto and Web3, I'm talking about what all the governments and corporations are building on, which is Ethereum. And if you think Ethereum is winning because of the building, then with Ethereum comes the Ethereum name service, right? And the big takeaway that we all have to remember is that the .eth people can do whatever the .eth people do, but all the .coms are ENS names. All the .nets and the .ios and everything else, those are ENS names. And so we don't have to like fight with the .eth people because they have a few extra features, a few extra benefits that are different from .com. But a .eth name and a .com name, they're both TLDs under ENS, right? And the .com, the .ios are managed through ICANN, and the .eth is managed through a smart contract, right? Not people, but a smart contract. And but it all uses the ENS protocol that allows us to participate in what PayPal and GoDaddy and Stripe and all these big players are doing. So everybody here, every .com you name you own, that's an ENS name. And it sounds like, Todd, should people contact you? Are you like offering a service to help people turn their domains into crypto addresses?
Yes, they can just sign up at paynow.com. We just launched, but really you still need to sign up for the wait list because we're reaching out to people. Basically, we've just launched this last week, and we're doing all of our testing, and that's why I had a call with the guys over. I don't know, Greg and Simon over at ENS, about um, it specifically some mapping issues on. We're hoping that they were farther along with being able to allow some level 2 management, um, instead of having to pay fees to change an avatar and all that type of stuff, because we have some, we're doing it for our clients. And anyway, yeah, so I wanted to say something real fast to Jeremiah. See,
I
he's
think they
laughing.
have I think they have a blog coming. I think they have more information coming out. They haven't been able to talk about it, but I think there's going to be, it's a process. The layer 2 is coming and everything's going to be upgraded and everything's going to be like, so cheap it's going to be like almost free. But, that layer 2 is in the pipeline being worked on.
Right, and there's three guys that Chad handles this for us. I've had to learn. I'm a salesperson, and I can't wait to go sell and demo. I'm like anyway. I just say it can do everything, and then of course I've had to learn so much bullshit here. But we got a couple engineers plus Chad and designers, and then I'm the one who I have to put. I'm not going to say where I put my foot to fucking make sure things fucking keep moving forward. This is unbelievable. Hey, Jeremiah, I wanted to say something to him. So he's accepting crypto, and a lot of companies are now. They're accepting Bitcoin, ETH, for Solana, and fucking, of course, stablecoin on their websites. A lot of them using BTC Pay. And we got to get back to regular domain investing here in a second. But Jeremiah, what have you, what have you experienced with accepting crypto? Any issues? Is it catching on? Are people just not using it, but now you offer this? But tell us a little bit about how, why
Sure.
and what you're doing to allow users to accept crypto.
So not I don't want to really plug in like the company that I'm using, but I mean it's another startup similar to PayNow. It's called Nicky.me, Nicky Nicky, and they have some pretty good technology around APIs and webhooks and stuff that I needed to leverage accepting crypto inside of catches. And like you said, we do accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC. It's a pretty seamless integration. So if you can add funds to your wallet with crypto, and when we get going with auctions, you'll be able to pay for a domain with crypto. When like that's going to be something that I'm actually building out today is the Dutch auctions. We're going to do a bunch of reverse Dutch auctions for a bunch of names in our portfolio, the company's portfolio and stuff. So um, it's I think that it's going to grow. It's going to we've had a handful of transactions, nothing crazy, but it's nice to be able to offer that, especially for certain countries where you know it might be easier for somebody to use those funds. And we're doing instant, almost in an instant settlement on those, so that we're converting that to USDC in the process in the transaction. So you you basically go in, say how much money you want to deposit into your account. We show you a QR code that you just scan with your wallet, and if your wallet supports it, it'll automatically add the amount that we're doing a Nikki provides a quote, which is like a 15-minute window of, if you're going to send $100 worth of Ethereum, here's exactly how much Ethereum you have to send, and you have to send it within 15 minutes. And then you provide your transaction ID in the steps. And then when Nikki will monitor that transaction ID, and when it's successful after X amount of confirmations, it will send a webhook back to us and mark that transaction is completed, and then those funds are automatically added to the wallet. So I got to work closely with that development team and the founder. Like I actually have a Slack channel open just with them. And they were really helpful in walking me through their API and stuff. So um, I think there's a lot of companies that are going to pop up in this space and try to figure out how to monetize it. And I think that's really where it's going to be interesting. Like some companies are going to take a percentage of that transaction through some type of contract, or you know, I'm I'm interested to see how that progresses, because I think as crypto adoption continues, there's going to be opportunities there. So that's I thought it was cool. I'd like to talk to you guys about how you guys are doing Pay Now, because I'm not married to one product, and I want to have the ability to maybe let users choose. So
Cheater. He's a cheater on people. No, I'm familiar with Nikki, and the way you made it sound, it really is. It really is a simple process that they have, but there, are some steps that need to be taken. Now, I know Stephen Lieberman, their lawyer, who's more of an investor in it. Now, the
yeah,
gentleman you're talking about, their CEO, who's handling customer support, he was on a video. Um, Talking about how he's really hands on, and I mean I'm going to be doing the same thing.
Thomas,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and
he's really hands on.
he's awesome. He's awesome to say, listen, we're trying to we're finally getting a few some transactions here, 100,000 bucks worth, a couple 100,000. We did over $1 million in transactions. Finally, a couple million. Excuse me.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
And he's basically handling business with his customers, so he knows exactly what they want. And they just started a couple years before, they've been around a couple years before us. Of course, I talked to you briefly about some things, and I'm certainly going to tell you, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're trying to make it a little more seamless, but also I'll tell you some tricks that I've learned, that here's how different ways that we can monetize. And of course, everyone can monetize when it comes to onboarding people, excuse me, or offboarding.
Right. I think it's going to be interesting how the actual monetization component works for that. I know we're getting in the weeds, but
Yeah.
Thomas has been really nice. When I did, they didn't give me any like guidelines. They just said, "Here's the API, go build something." And then when I came back and said, "You guys are missing some stuff because I don't want my customer to have to go to a Nikki page to complete the payment. I want that all to be seamless, just like Stripe and PayPal inside our tool. So I don't want to do that." So they went off and they built some payment intent and payment report functionality into the API, and then said, "Hey, we're ready for you to go off and build this." So we did. We went off and built it, and then I said, "We're ready." And Thomas and his team, they went into our site, created accounts, and created transactions and tested the whole workflow
Geez, that's
with
great. I mean, no, that's great.
without me even asking. So it was cool to see them take that level of ownership into making sure that what I was doing was right. And I got a lot of really good feedback from them, about initially I didn't have a QR code, and and now I have a QR code that actually wraps the dollar, the quoted transaction amount, whether it's a Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDC. So it's pretty nice that they help me, at least help me through their. And I helped them too with some things that they didn't have appropriate documentation for their API. It was hidden behind uh, an account wall, and just the feedback happened both ways. It was nice.
Yeah, Jeremiah, you certainly helped them. I mean, that's the type of, we have a few people that we're working with doing the same things, and we're like, fantastic. We've already tested these types of features or products, and glad that you can use them, but they need to be refined or, like you said, more seamless in someone's website. Okay, so besides all that bullshit, we'll talk about that as we go on. There's two things we're going to touch on today. First, we're going to talk about AI, because Darpan, the .ai, Darpan was mentioned, and does he think it's a peak? And I wanted to touch on this with Josh real fast, but then we're going to talk about a friend in the crowd, Gabe, has, I think he received a UDRP. We're going to talk about, how to handle when when someone files a complaint against one of your domain names, because it's happening right now with my partner Chad. We're waiting for, I'll tell you more about it when we get to that, when we get to the UDRP little segment we're going to talk about in maybe about 5 minutes. So Gabe, get ready. But first, Josh, well, let me see. Is this DNX.com? Is your audio working okay there? Let's test it.
Yeah, it should be working.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. And I am waiting for those pictures of those English horses. It's going to be cool, dude.
Next week.
It's
Next week.
it's awesome. That was Arif's right. Awesome picture in the countryside. There's something. I can't wait to go back to my little farm back in the Midwest. It's got a lake. It looks just like that. A little more hillbilly-ish though. Than yours looks quaint and nicer. And it was cool seeing the kids bouncing around. And I know your kids are having a great time. But okay. So
Absolutely.
about Darpan was saying, hey, AI, the .ai extension. There's a lot of talk about it. He believes maybe it has peaked, but that's not the point. He still believes there's 2 to 3 years left. And he's like, that's 25% of our sales. I don't know. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? But he mentioned 25% of his sales were coming from these alternate extensions. He expects that to go up to like 40%. But did you have a chance to see what Darpan wrote about the .ai extension? And do you think, once again, is it near a peak? What do is it right now the place to invest, he's saying it's increasing. I mean, the popularity is increasing at the moment.
Yeah, I could see an argument being made for it being a good place to invest. And Drew makes the argument often that, and other people do, that now is not a good time to invest because we've already hit the peak. And, for people that don't intricately understand the market, they should be wary investing in .ai. But my counterpoint to that is that, the people that he's referring to are no good at investing in .com either. So, when you're talking about investing in domain names, you're really actually only talking to 1% of the people that are listening anyway, because most really struggle regardless of what extension they're investing in. So, ultimately, if there are going to be, two extensions that I would suggest you invest in, it would be .com and .ai. So, yeah, I don't think that it's something that you want to avoid just because it's popular. That's not how markets work. When something is popular, it suggests that it's not something that you want to avoid.
Yeah, and that's really the point that people need to catch too. You might have just said it quickly, but it's when you said that most people, they fail in all extensions, and it's really important to include like .com in that, right? And yeah, it's the selection is what really matters. Like you can be profitable in almost every extension, but you have to be super critical of what you get on the left of the dot, right? It has to match up with what's on the right. Has to be some or a very super strong brandable type of thing, like a one word, generic that's used in common day-to-day language. It's not like, you can just get any old pokety pokety, the stuff I sell in .com, the two words, those just don't work in .ai, no matter what it is. And in terms of length, I know, Drew was saying, and the argument is true, like on a broader level, in most cases with branding on a new technology, when it becomes more ubiquitous and more common use, and people kind of take that word as granted, you don't really need to label it as your brand anymore. That happens a lot in the world. But with AI, it is a little bit different. I think the reason for that is because the term AI is actually pretty broad. And if you ask like 10 people to define it, well, you wouldn't get 10 definitions, but you certainly wouldn't only get one either, right? Like a lot of us are like, oh no, AI is, sentience, like from, Terminator and all that kind of stuff, right? And other people, it's like, no, it's just, advanced algorithms that pull in new data, fresh data all the time and replace it. And so there's many different definitions. And even more importantly than that is that there's a lot of companies that don't even have real AI, but they're using something that people might think is AI, and so they're using AI as a brand. And so in those cases, for those reasons, I think the term AI is going to have staying power when it comes to branding, much more than 5G or 4D printing, all the stuff that comes and goes or whatever it is. So I think was it going to stay forever? I don't know, but I think it's going to take root. And the other factor that I think is especially for .ai is that it's taking its usage now, but it's also built upon the last 10 years of NGTLDs slowly creeping into the common sort of knowledge set of what's a domain. 10 years ago it's like, nah, it's .com and that's it. And now it's been 10 years, these NGTLDs are coming in, and younger people they kind of understand it a bit more. And we're kind of at a bit of an inflection point where I think, more often than not, people are going to understand what .ai is, and especially that audience, right? The people, so the companies are building things, they're building products for really tech-savvy people. So specifically those people, it's totally fine to have something else other than .com, right? Today, if you're opening a restaurant, you still want a .com, but if you're doing some AI stuff, 99% of your audience is going to understand .ai, and if they go to the .com and it doesn't resolve, they're going to go to the AI, right? They're not going to realize, oh, what's happening. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Josh was going to say something else. Josh, when you said, like Gareth brought up, yeah, most people don't make money at this, at domain investing. And one thing that I wanted to bring up is it is really close to like professional poker. Most of the folks don't make money. That doesn't mean you're a loser. It's a hard business to be in. I think I just when people complain about not having sales, I know there's some folks that are, that apparently, making money at it. I used to. Seems harder than ever for me. I'm going to raise prices too, by the way. Like, fuck it. I'm just going raising prices. If someone needs one of my names, one of these son of a bitches, they're going to pay for it. Okay. I'm not playing with these little small sales anymore. Fuck it. If somebody needs a name, they'll pay 20 grand. We know that. And right, you don't get $100,000 sale unless you price it at 100,000. But there's some, I don't know, it's sort of like in this business where if you complain about, geez, I'm just not making any sales and I've spent money and I got a portfolio, people act like you don't know what you're doing. You're just doing it wrong and you're messed up. That can be the case, but it's such a hard uh, business to be in. I mean, to be successful at domain investing, it's like options trading. Most people, you can't time the markets. You need to spend a lot of time. And those who have systems, I know guys that made, I'm talking tens of millions, over 50 million a year gambling, had systems where they would gamble. And then all of a sudden the NBA shifts. Okay. You always have to update your systems. And like with professional poker, we've seen a lot of those guys who we used to watch on TV. They had hair, then they didn't have hair, then they had hair again. Fuck. Okay. So even the pros, they can only stick it out so long. It's like the top runners. Yeah, eventually they, I don't know if the game changes or what, but it's even for the most successful people in domain investing, sometimes there's just a small window. And then of course, we have a lot of the old time investors who have names that they've hand registered. You're never going to be able to compete with them. I have a few of them, but I know most of the guys have a ton that they like, we got $200 in this name and it's obviously worth more than 200. Sometimes these guys have, great single words, great 2-word domain names. They hand registered these. So you can't compete with them, okay? You need to build a portfolio by spending 500 a name or 1,000 per name or whatever the case, and you still need to build a portfolio of let's say 500 names, a few thousand names. It's going to cost you a lot more money than some of these guys with great portfolios that are just renewing. I guess my point is this is a tough business. If you aren't successful at it, don't let the very few that do make money at it act like you're no good at this. It's just basically you know when you know all the facts about other people's portfolios, you realize, all right, so a lot of the shit you've bought the last 5 years, you haven't made money off of, or the last 10 years. It's that stuff that you've bought 15, 20 years ago. And I'm talking about some of the big timers in the space. Yeah, they have some great stuff that they've owned for more than 10 years, more than 15 years. They sell, some of that stuff, and that's what, helps pay for the whole portfolio. I just, had to say that because it's like, yeah, I'm struggling at selling domain names when it used to seem like it was much easier. These last few years, I've had to package all sorts of shit, just try to get my money back out of them. Sure, I get a sale here and there, but it just, and my prices are reasonable. I just think it's with all the other extensions, there's so many options. And Darpan said what you sort of talked about, Arif, that, okay, .ai maybe has done its job, and that is it's opened the door for other extensions or alternate extensions, and it really wasn't the one that opened the door for it, but it's making people more aware that, hey, you can other extensions. Hold on.
It's pushing it a little bit more. Yeah, the door was already crept open a little bit, but it's giving a sizable push to open the door a little bit more. It was only a matter of time, right? People thought it would be overnight that the NGTLDs would take over the world, right? Didn't happen, but it's it's slowly moving its way forward, and that's kind of what we should have expected in hindsight. But it is what it is.
Jeremiah's got his hand up. Jeremiah, you can just chime in. Except, right, you
Yeah.
would you still be in this space if you were just only messing with domain investing rather than building? I mean, you're a builder and you're a vendor in this space. But what was your comment?
I wanted to go back to I wanted to go back to so when Josh mentioned the 2016 sale of ucoin.com, I had to go out and do a little more digging, and I found that that was a Michael Birkins pickup in December of 2015, and in 5 months he flipped it from 1,050 DropCatch auction to 80,000. And it was actually a European buyer who paid in euro, so it was like 70,000 euro. I just wanted to add that bit of information, because it's like you were saying, that you gotta pony up and spend $500 to $1,000 on a name that is at auction to really be in the game. So that's all.
And as they say, it's not shooting fish in a barrel. You know what? Because people want to do it now. I will spend 1,500, 3,000 on a name because I'm going to try to sell that for 70,000 or 150,000. You got to
Yeah,
do this.
you kicked me out of 2 auctions the other day. So
You gotta. I don't think I won any of those either. But hey, Josh, while you're there, what do you do when you're traveling with family and you're over there? And I mean, are you still looking at drops? And DNX seems like it's really picking up. You mentioned it that there was a day where there was quite a few sales. But what domaining do you do? Summer months when you're on vacation, you still have to maintain still got to make money and maintain. So what's your day like with domains now?
Yeah, I'm right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm just trying to focus my brain on unwinding, because I'm just thinking about all kinds of things the entire day. So it takes me a few days to wind down. But the in essence, I try to get work done before everyone wakes up, and then get work done in the evening when we're done with our day. Over here it's 7 p.m. and we were out all day at a place called Longleat Safari Park, which is a lot of fun especially for the kids. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try to get everything in that I need to do, everything that I need to do for DNX, and then um, you know, I don't look at drops too often, but take a quick glance, 30 minutes a day. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm buying names. I bought a couple names today. I typically buy names every day, um, regardless of how much time I spend in front of the computer, because even if I look for 30 minutes, I normally find something. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's my full-time job. It's what I do for a living, so I can't completely ignore it.
So do you do what I try to do, but drop catch and go to the expired auctions and then summit names yet? I mean, basically the old consistent favorites that we all look at.
Yeah, I look at all of that, and then I look at buy it now listings as well. I try and study, new naming conventions that I may not have thought about before, that are maybe not abundantly obvious. It's interesting. I mean, listen, the more time you spend um, immersing yourself in this industry, the more you learn. And anyone that tells you that they're not learning or they don't have anything else to learn is unfortunately wrong. You should always be learning in this space. There's always new information. You can always do better as a domain investor, and I feel that every day.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like when you go through a list, like you see a word that you don't quite know, it's business potential. You might recognize the word, and then you hop onto Google, and next thing you know, you're going on a rabbit hole, and you learn something that you've never understood before. And it's like that's the cool thing about domains, and that's why there's so much opportunity for everybody, is because, especially the stuff you already know better than other people, you'll recognize, domains that have potential there, and potential business concepts or whatever it is, and you'll be able to pick those names up for cheaper because I won't recognize it, right? Or Josh won't recognize it, or whoever else, and that's where, if you really want to be a good domainer, the best thing you can do is just, watch the news a few times a week, and watch documentaries and all kinds of other stuff. And you don't have to be an expert in any one thing, but it helps if you know a little bit about a lot of things, because then you'll recognize the words and the patterns and the terms that make business sense, and that businesses will use for their branding, and that's who you sell to. So yeah.
Hey guys, I invited Gabe up because he messaged me and said, I said, it's probably more appropriate for the domain name law show, but here we have a little more free time. And I certainly want Gabe to come on Tuesday so we can speak with David and Jeff. And the lawyers, Gabe, I know you're here before you chime in. The lawyers always, they don't like to give legal advice, which, it's like just, anyway, give, share your insights. That's how I say it. Then, you don't have to give specific legal advice, but you're not involved in a lawsuit anyway. It's a UDRP. So, we have, many times over the years, there's people that reach out and say, hey, I got this UDRP. Any help with the defense here? What do you think I should do? And can certainly give tips, because this, a lot of us have portfolios. It seems like it only happens once every decade, once every 5 years. So it's not a big, it doesn't happen frequently to people. But when it does, you're thinking, geez, what's my best way to answer? And especially if it's a name that you have for sale for $5,000, you don't want to spend 10 grand on a lawyer. But anyway, tell us your experience, Gabe. First, welcome. Thanks for being here. Tell us your experience about, what happened, what's the name, and what's going on, what issue you've run into.
Oh, right on, Todd. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having the space, and for the speakers, and for any tips you guys give. I reached out to you because I did get hit with the 4-letter UDRP. The scary 4 letters, and it's my first UDRP. But I'm a little nervous about it. But I don't know if you as a seasoned domainer, like you said, maybe once a year you guys get one, if it's something that you guys just look at and then think, oh, no big deal. But in this case, for me, it's, my first one. I'm a little nervous about what to do, but I've been doing some research, and a little bit about the domain. February 23rd of this year, I registered. I was just following the trends, the technology and AI, and I came across, I actually had radar. I don't know if you guys know what X gives you when you sign up for premium. It gives you a radar where you can put in like keywords, and then content comes up that's related to that. So I had AI agents in radar, and I had some posts come up about a open source project called Gibberlink, and I looked to see what it was about, and I went to go see if it was available. And at the time, I was able to go ahead and register it, the .com, and I looked before I registered to see if it was a trademark or if there was any trademarks out there, and at the time there wasn't. So I created I got the domain, and I created a landing page using Bolt, sort of as a community page for the open source project, and everything directed back to Gibberlink's GitHub repo, and all the links. It was in good faith. It wasn't in bad faith, and at the time there was no trademark, so it wasn't like I was trying to sell it to um, the creators, or even 11 Labs. It was a little bit more backstory to that. When I registered it, the next day, the 22nd through the 24th, I think it was, they had a hackathon going on, and the 2 gentlemen that actually created the Gibberlink um, project, they won the hackathon, and it went kind of viral, and there was a lot of traffic to my site. I had put some Google Analytics, and it captured a lot of the hits, and it was like insane numbers in the hundreds of thousands hits in traffic. And so I put a buy button on there for the domain. Just put it up, and Tech Radar had made a comment that, oh, somebody's already trying to sell it for $85,000. And I saw the traffic, and I did put a pretty big number on there, but there was no trademark on it. So anyway, now come to now, I got hit yesterday with the UDRP, but their trademark is 8 days after I had already registered it. So in this case, I don't know. I might have a leg to stand on because I did it before the trademark, and I wasn't trying to sell it to them, at the time.
Well, let
I
me
mean, if
say,
it
I've
happens
let you
that
go
way,
on
it'd be
long
great.
enough, Gabe. I was going to say about, I hate it because these rooms are recorded. You don't want to say anything that could help, or I mean, hurt your case. But okay, but the domain name you already mentioned, Gibberlink or gibberlinks.com. Was it with an S or no?
No, it's the
Okay, so
singular.
so
So
I went to the
Gibberlink.
website and I see what you had put up there. Now, okay, you first, you want to slow down and think, okay, they call these fanciful type names. No one, somebody made up a term and they were going to name their product this or their company, whatever they planned on using. I don't know what it is, what it's going to be. But anyway, so they come up with this name. It's not uncommon. You've registered, and I'll tell you a similar situation that I was in. You registered the domain name before they have the trademark, but yet they could you don't need a registered trademark. They could have been doing business, or they might say when they file the UDRP. Well, let's tell us a little bit about the procedure so far. So you received an email from WIPO or from the forum saying that this domain name is subject, is the center of this dispute. Is that what you received so far?
No, it just came from Dynadot where I registered it, and it was for sale there as well in their marketplace. So it got locked because of that, and I can't even see the site, so I'm not sure how you're able to see it, but um,
Unless I've spelled it wrong. Jibberlink.
it's G. It starts with a G.
Oh, fuck it.
Gibberlink,
Yeah.
and
I know lawyers will think, I'm thinking of John Berryhill listening right now. Go, don't say anything. I mean, you're just going to listen to this. Someone could. I mean, because it really comes down to intent. Okay, I see on Dynadot you got listed for 45 grand, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit more to that story though. I had an actual offer made to me for 30, and I declined it, and I don't know if it was them that was trying to make the offer, but at the time I had it listed for 65.
Well, let
And
me stop you there too. Domainers, why would you not take 30,000 for a name like this? Because
well,
you're knowing there's one company or one person that's using it. I mean, are you anticipating that this is going to become a popular phrase, gibberlink? I mean,
not necessarily the phrase, but the protocol. So it's an AI to AI voice protocol where AI can speak to another AI in like a sort of like a RTD2 sound, and it's an actual technology that they created using some other
okay, they
GitHub repo.
created it, but see, I'm not familiar. If it was open source and everybody calls it a gibberlink, then I totally get it. It's like beam me up, Scotty. There's some fucking thing. So I would need, that's why it's like need to slow it down, understand if it's possible that gibberlink could be a generic term for agent to agent communication or transactions or whatever it happens
Yeah,
to be. Okay, then you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's sort of like a new phrase. If this particular entity or company created it, and listen, I'm just talking, we're just thinking out loud here, and it's the first I've heard of it, and there's all sorts of facts behind this that can really, help you out or maybe not be so beneficial to your site, and that is if it's specific company created this new phrase and now Now, if they've made it, they could make it open sourced where everybody can use it, and they're trying to make it popular. But
Yeah.
still, it's like we'd have to, how
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, how widely used is it?
Yeah.
Gabe?
So it is open source before they made it a trademark. It was already open source, and so I registered a name based on that, not because they were trademark and they were creating a business on it. And I created a community page for it. So anybody could have, I suppose, done it. They could have done it. They didn't do it, and I beat them to it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't in bad faith. I think that as a domainer, we all intend to sell the domains, and that's at the time because of the traffic that it was getting. I thought that, the value because of the traffic, that kind of motivated me to do that at that price and turn down the 30K. So that's kind of where I'm at. But now that they sent a UDRP to Dynadot, and this is where I'm at, I'm just trying to navigate and see, see where
Yeah,
it'll
and the
end up.
first one, so to be catch up, the first one always concerns you. I want to hear what Jeremiah has to say, and then we'll talk about this a little bit. I mean, if you're, you certainly have defenses here, but your intention does mean something. But Jeremiah, what were you going to mention?
There's another first use in commerce that dates back to December 2020, where there's was a GRBL as a G code interpreter for CNC machines for Arduinos. So they're not the first to use it.
Correct. Yeah, they're not. It's been out. The technology's already been out there, and the repo. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of it, but there is something else that they use to create this Gibberlink.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very important.
Is
I mean,
I think it's important to have a good response for this because you got to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give any advice, but
No,
but
I
I
know.
just wanted to say that. I mean, just from a quick search, I can already see that there's stuff going back to 2014 to control stepper motors. So that's Arduino technology. So it goes back even further than these guys.
But Jeremiah, is that usage the same usage that that Gabe is talking about?
No.
Right. So, on one level, Gabe, just because the trademark wasn't in the registration cycle where it wasn't showing, they could have had a common law trademark kind of thing by using it prior. But it definitely sounds like it would be good to get a lawyer, and maybe even not a good idea to talk about it, because Todd mentioned it. It could be a very valuable name, and you need to protect yourself.
I see. I was going to mention that I don't know if anybody does know this, but ChatGPT was in a UDRP before it was acquired, and the guy who bought it, Mike Santiago, I believe, bought it, or he hand registered it just the same way that I did, because he was following the trend. He saw it, and he sold it to another guy that owned SiteMatrix, and then SiteMatrix got into the UDRP with OpenAI, but then they dropped it, and because they came to a negotiation. So here, what I'm thinking is that this might get dropped because I registered it before the trademark, and hopefully the same scenario ends up happening. I don't know.
Registration isn't necessarily the date that you're looking at. It's really when they first started using it in commerce, right? It's usage that really
In
matters.
commerce, yeah.
And so like, again, like I have so many questions and so many things, but I'm until your case is resolved, until it's closed, I'm hesitant to say it openly here. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm excited but nervous at the same time. I mean, I know that when I registered on the 23rd, they were in a hackathon trying to develop the technology, or develop not the technology, but the what they were doing with Gibberlink, and that happened between the 22nd and 24th. So the timeline is very close.
So I'm just going to tell you, there is a social with John Berryhill. I forget it was on DNY or on Sherpa. I think it was DNY, but he's talking about sometimes the date could be even pushed further back if a panelist or a judge thinks somebody registers a name in anticipation. I know the example that they gave was for like Libra coin, like when Facebook was going to do their sort of stable coin with a few other companies, and they already pre-registered Libra in a few places, but some people had bought the domains a few days before. And what John was saying was like, yeah, no, for sure that if it came up and that was a targeted thing, and again, it really depends on the names. But he goes, yeah, those people could have lost their domains because a panelist could have thought, yeah, they were getting it in anticipation, or a judge in court. And so it's the dates are really fuzzy, right? It's not when it's registered; it's when it's first used, and even then, it first used in commerce, yeah. But if you see somebody setting something up and they're not using commerce yet, but you're anticipating they are, then it's it's a little bit questionable. So, but
I would be more worried if this guy that wrote the GRBL G code interpreter for CNC machines back in 2009 was the person that submitted the UDRP. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think whoever you hire, you should talk to him about that, because the original first use in some form of commerce or written code was in 2009.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with the WebPass Inc. versus WebPass? There was a UDRP that happened in it says March 3rd of 20. No, I'm sorry. That's not the right date. But I guess the whole thing was around the registration of the domain before the trademark. And it was in favor of in that case, the registration date. And
Gabe, let me say this. So I'm going to send you a couple of attorneys that can help, some less than others. Some guys that may help take it on. But I was going to say what you should do in the meantime, and it was I'm saying not my mistake, but you reached out to me. I asked, hey, let's talk about this. I have these recorded rooms, and some things, I don't think it's going to hurt you, but for advice in the future, not just to you, to everyone. Yeah, some things you don't want to mention only because, but you can sort of unwind some of the comments, or that you've made. And what I mean by that is, okay, your intention wasn't in bad faith to register this name. So, but what I would say is you're going to get the UDRP, the notice now, probably in the next couple of days. Okay, since you got notified by Dynadot, you'll get it in the next couple of days, and then you'll have 20 days to respond. Okay, I will send you a couple lawyers that may be able to help you. Go on mute, would you? Just so I don't have to hear the TV or whatever that is. Is that Brad?
Yeah,
Somebody,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I just wanted to say real quick that it sounds like your intentions are authentic. Your experience of what you're trying to do with it, and you really didn't know. And so those are important things to have on your side.
Well, okay, so you do have some rights to it, but what I was going to say is you get your stuff in order, meaning, hey, do research. Like Jeremiah said it right. You're going to have a good response. Of course, you can put one together yourself, but we'll try to see if we can find some lawyers that can be that buffer in between you and panelists always love to see there's an attorney answering on your behalf. Plus, they know how to clean things up, add some evidence to your case. And so things that you can do are, continue to do research. Jeremiah found something from 2009. You want to find all sorts of different usages for it, and then your lawyer would help you, or you are going to do it yourself, is develop out your intention was, of course, not to target anybody that uses, whether it's the mark holder from way back who may still be involved, somebody who's used it in commerce, or this new person, or your focus was on potential generic use in the future of it becoming a common term in the future, because and that's what you speak with the lawyer about, because I don't think anybody's going to agree this was a real well-known term in the past. But many times we'll invest in domain names that we believe have potential for many users, for many different entities in the future. But okay, so I think what we should do is, leave it at that for now. Wait until you get your UDRP, and in the meantime, just organize yourself on other usages of it, other companies that that you find that have it. And you said, mentioning that yes, you did search the USPTO and those types of things, and you didn't find a registered mark. But as Arif says, and we all should know, most companies don't register their trademarks. So when you hear companies, I checked the USPTO, Tony's Pizza that's out front of your house in a fucking food truck, they have a trademark to Tony's Pizza, okay? Especially in that geographic area, right? So until you register and get this protection nationwide, and I'm talking about here in the US, everybody, if you're selling a product, my wife's selling a product, anyway, for horses, you start establishing your trademark as soon as you start doing businesses, that even before you may even have made a sale. So when you start marketing the product, registering the name as a business, when you start creating labels and creating product, now of course you're just starting to establish it. Once you start doing sales and transactions, then you're really sinking your teeth into it, meaning now it's much easier to show your common law mark, because a lot of people have ideas and then they might register a domain name and they consider, look, I had an idea, I registered the domain name, I wrote a business plan about it, so do I have a trademark? You're going in the right direction, but you need to keep going. And like we said, create the product. If you're spending money on a prototype and you can show, look, I spent 150 grand, now you may have, and you started doing some marketing, you may have a trademark even though it's pre-sales. But usually you want to, when they say in commerce, there's been transactions and you've received money. That's the easiest way. But I guess the point is, everyone always believes that you got to have a registered trademark, when 90%, more than that, out there, people have trademarks that aren't registered with the government, and they're doing business as that. All right, well, we get this
Hey,
up. Any comment, Gabe?
yeah, Todd, I appreciate all the feedback and the insight. I will say that there are 13 other extensions that were registered out there. They're not mine. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with all those guys. I don't know if we're all going to be doing the same thing. But the last thing I will say is, um, I'm on the fence of just saying, you know what, screw it, cut my losses. But on the other side, I'm saying to myself, man, I might have something here that's worth a good chunk, and then we'll see what happens. Just keep going. But I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Definitely don't throw in the towel. And when you all that stuff, like I said, when I say put together some information, when you finally, and like I said, I have your, I can DM you. I'll say, hey, reach out to these attorneys and see if this is after you get your UDRP, and then what you can do is share with them. Here's the complaint, and then all the things that you're mentioning. Look, it's been registered in these 13. A lot of research that they won't have to do. So keep doing all sorts of research. May or may not be helpful to them. But then when you share with anybody that's willing to help, your complaint, and you, even if you have to share this with fucking Claude or Chat GPT, you're going to be sharing, and believe it, they can do good jobs. And then maybe you share that information with a lawyer. So you would share with, say Claude, the AI, and say, I received this UDRP. Here's the complaint. I had no, bad faith and intention when I registered the name. And you might, say, here's a lot of other data about this, this particular name, and give it all the information and ask it to help write a response to the complaint, because they're really coming along. I'm talking about daily now. They're understanding more about, domain name disputes. And then you can share all that information with an attorney, and sort of give him a head start, because this is if you're not going to want, if you want to keep the costs real low. But and then of course a lawyer or yourself can say, in your response, that you are willing to come up to a settlement prior, prior to letting the case move forward. But that's really when you can use a third party to benefit you there, so the attorney can reach out and say, try to, just resolve this, settle this before we even, go to a UDRP. But don't let it scare you. Worst case is a name gets taken away. Let me talk about a case that my business partner, who, this is a case that don't mind sharing because the facts are the facts. The case that's right now being reviewed is ksuite.com, KSUITE.com. I'm sure Chad won't mind me mentioning it, only because, well, in fact, he registered it in 2004, and he's registered over 100 domain names with suite, SUITE.com at the end. Okay, because from a travel suite, or just all sorts of names. I can't even think. Over 100 had him. I saw them all because we were when he was preparing his response. But the point is, he had the name for sale for $3 or $4 at Atom. The person inquired about it, didn't want to buy it for this low amount. He's owned it 20 years before they even had their trademark. Shows a pattern of registering names like this. We absolutely believe that it should be a complaint denied and a reverse domain name hijacking. And, as an owner of, over 20,000 names, he, just gets tired of people trying to pick off names, because later on they realize that's a good brand, or those are those keywords that we want to use. And they, it happens frequently, especially if you have, certain types of names in your portfolio, and you have, over 20, over 30,000 of them. Especially when you get up, you start running into this. Mike Mann, similar. You have to respond to these complaints. But anyway, so for that particular one, have a great response. I believe Chad, I believe he put most of that together himself, but we had some lawyers, comb through it and make sure that when we're referring to previous cases that, that it's accurate. You don't just rely on AI, but sometimes the facts are the facts. And when it's a registration that predates a trademark by 20 years, of course, you want to use that in there. And of course, your state of mind when you registered the domain name. That's why you you need to slow down the some of the facts. You don't have as solid facts on your side as this other case I just brought up. And that's okay. All cases have different facts, but you still have I think you can have a great defense, a great response. But Jeremiah said it. You need to have a good response here, whether you put it together, you by yourself, you and AI, you, AI, and a lawyer. But this one, yours definitely needs a great response. I say that, and I'll finish about UDRPs right now, is with Chad's case, if he didn't respond, the panelist should still be able to see that if the complainant put in true facts and wasn't lying, that this domain name was registered way before the mark. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is many times a no response shouldn't mean you lose the domain name. If the facts are on your side and there's no disputing them, like that case, this should be just a complaint denied. You had a mark that the person absolutely didn't know about. No one could have known about it. You weren't around, and it's not, anyway. So,
You know,
go ahead.
Todd, I
Yeah.
mean, Gabe, listen, Todd is telling you some very valuable stuff, and definitely don't give up. You've done, you have the right intention, but in reality, you're going to learn a lot by defending yourself and doing all the nuance it takes. So, and they could be trying to scare you off. And what Todd just said, that 90% of the UDRP cases that the respondent doesn't respond to, they lose. So you respond with all the information that you can learn, and with the awareness that whether you give up on it or not, fight it through the end. and you'll learn a lot, and you could possibly, and you might very well win.
And they closed Kookaroo Chicken too, I guess, a few years back, like Boston Market. Thought those things would be around forever. Okay, so we need to talk about domain investing here. There was a, I guess Namecheap now through Spaceship is allowing you. They got this new sales platform where, or I don't know what it is. You can list your names. They show up on Namecheap registration path. But you list them through Spaceship. Um, Arif, do you know anything about this? Have you heard anything more about that?
I saw, I think it was Kirkendall. I think he posted it a couple of not too long ago, a few days ago or something like that. So I haven't checked it out just yet, but I have like 3,000 domains at Spaceship, so I'm definitely going to be checking it out sooner than later. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know the
seems
specifics of that.
good. Josh, do you, if you're there, have you heard about this, and do you use Spaceship at all or Namecheap?
Yeah, I use Spaceship and Namecheap, and yeah, that's good. Fine. I'm actually, I would like for them to do that. I don't love a fragmented market, but there are some positives to it.
You mean fragmented
Yeah,
because they're not part of the GoDaddy thing?
I think that's what's happening is that there's I think there's some resistance with the Kirkendall, Spaceship and Namecheap and Afternic. I think at one point, I think when Spaceship wanted to have fast transfer, GoDaddy was going to be charging an extra fee or something like that. That they wanted to start charging like a not just a percentage, but also like a plus $100 for the and it's really didn't make much sense because it should be the other way around, right? It should be that if the registrar is actually taking the time and building this technology to incorporate fast transfer for Apnic, you would almost want to give them a discount, right? So I don't know what the amount was. It might have been $20, but there was a flat fee. That was, again, this is what I've heard. I'm not 100% sure, but that's why it didn't really happen, because I know at the beginning, Spaceship on their to-do list, it was obviously fast transfer integration with Afternic, and it just never happened. And then it's like kind of just like became pretty clear that it wasn't a question of time anymore. It wasn't like just negotiations or whatever it was. It's like, okay, no. And so, yeah, as Josh says, like in one sense, like we want one syndication network because it's simpler. But on the other side, like, GoDaddy just keeps on pumping up the commissions. So, the only solution to that is competition. So, who knows? At some point, you get Spaceship and Dynadot and a couple of big players that coming together, and they want to build their own, version of Afternic. I think it's really good. And the real other problem we have, I think, is also just visibility. I mean, the GoDaddy's you want Boost? We'll charge an extra 5% for Boost. But I was like, well, all the stuff in Boost is what should have been there in the first place. But then they're saying, oh, well, giving visibility in the search results at GoDaddy, it costs something. So it's like, we got to compensate. And it's like, well, so what's the point? It's like, if we're not getting syndication at the biggest registrar, which is, GoDaddy by far, then okay, maybe there are other options. But the truth is, like, it's half in between, right? So some of our stuff gets shown. If it's the exact match, it gets shown. But so it really depends on what kind of portfolio you have, what kind of domains you have. Are your domains more stuff that are, if they're close to what people are typing in, then you certainly want some kind of added search. But if you have just good keywords, then it's not really going to matter because it will show up either way most likely. But it's really competition. I guess in this case, when it comes to going against GoDaddy, it's not a bad thing. So we'll see how it turns out.
I do like the user interface of the seller portal on Spaceship. It's Seller Hub. I'm not a broker, but I am brokering a name for one of my real life friends. So I put it in a couple different places, and I recently just moved it over to Spaceship because I think moving names around a little bit can see some visibility. People see it when name servers change and stuff. So I put eth.dev over there. So that's it.
Yeah, there's a. Hey, Josh, are you on DNX? When people make changes to the name servers, does that trigger anything? Do you show that, or is that worth showing to potential buyers?
We've got a monitoring system that's very close to being released within our domain management system that is also very close to being released. That's what's hosting some of the landers that I gave a glimpse to via a tweet after last week's show. So yeah, within our domain management system, they'll be monitoring and all of these things that you can possibly imagine when it comes to basically market intelligence.
Yeah, so any obviously price change, server change, but any change. So I can understand why potential buyers, especially brokers that are looking at names for clients, to say, "Hey, there's been a change in this," because it does, does usually mean something. Jeremiah, why did you changed it to the spaceship servers as well? So that means it's removed from the Afternic fast transfer, but it's still on Afternic, correct?
I think it's everywhere that it possibly can be. But moving around to different landers, I think I want to try that. I did see some people get some success by putting stuff on Seller Hub, so I figured I'd give it a shot. We're going to put it out there for a little while, and then I'll move it again. So I don't, like I said, I don't broker names, but for this case, I figured it was worthwhile because it's a friend of mine.
Anybody else have any experience? Please come on up about really. I'm interested if anybody gets any inquiries through their who is anymore. It seems like who uses their own landers. We made a big mistake as domainers way back. We should have always said, and ICA should do this because they don't have a budget to, do any marketing. But if you want to purchase a domain name in the aftermarket, go to the domain name. We should have always said that because people simply will, we're losing the business to these marketplaces, and I don't mind, if they're finding business for us and doing marketing, okay, we'll pay them the commission. I'm seeing now Atom, people are talking about, I moved my name to Atom and I sold it there. I think it has to do with the great marketing that they do. And it just makes me think, no, now more people will move their names to Atom. I don't know how many, Arif, maybe you know, but Josh, maybe you know, how many names are on the Atom platform with regards to just premium premium and ultra premium, and then including the standard. What do you think it is?
I'm not sure exactly, but it's definitely a few 100,000.
Yeah. He answered that question on Andrew Altman's podcast a couple of times, but the last time I think was like 3 years ago, right? So when he was like, I think it was like 200,000 or 300,000 at that point. So I'm gonna guess by now it's maybe 500,000, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I mean it's a good solid amount, but in comparison to a GoDaddy, it's very small.
Yeah. So after Nick, it was like 20 million or something like that.
No,
It's probably
it's less than that now because they lost a lot of
huge.
the huge domains. But it's still 17 million-ish. It's more than that actually because there's a bunch of make offer stuff as well. But in terms of names that have buy it now prices, it's about 17 million.
Yeah, when you heard me screaming earlier, I'm like disenchanted with selling domains. I mean, one, it's just difficult in all these different marketplaces. I don't know. I mean, I don't like a lot of the search. You'll search on Afternic for a name, and then of course similar names. It's weird what similar names show up and all the different extensions they try to sell. I really look forward, really liked what you've developed so far at DNX, Josh, because I think that really is, in the future of that's what somebody wants for the aftermarket, because then you're getting all the, the different, all the different marketplaces in the aftermarket or several of them. And it's, why wouldn't you have it in one place with all the features of being able to see price changes, any, I think that's the most important. But anyway, earlier I was saying, yeah, I'm just going to, change all my pricing. I got most of my prices between, 3,000 and 100,000, say right now. Very few at the top end, most of them, of 1,000 names. I'm just going to list everything above 5 figures. So minimum 10,000 and most things mid 5 figures. And then my ones that are high 5 figures list in the 6 figures, 150. I could be shooting myself in the foot, but it's going from no sales to absolutely no sales. But what do you think about? I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty generic question because you don't know the specific portfolio. If somebody wants to see some of my stuff, they can go to afternick.com/ABC Productions. But I'm just think, selling a name for 6,888. I could easily sell it. I mean, I think almost the same as selling that 4-letter or 5-letter for 16,888. Um, and I think the frequency might go down, but because the price, if I price higher, I need less sales per year. But what do you think of that strategy, Josh? And then Arif, what do you think?
Tough one. I mean, there's a lot. I can tell you that there are a lot of people that think changing prices frequently leads to sales. Whether or not that's true, I'm not sure. I think there's probably an element of truth to it. The pricing thing is like an age-old question, in my opinion, that nobody really has the right answer to. So, I think it just at the end of the day, it becomes a question of what you want, and to each their own. If your pricing is unreasonable, you won't get any sales. If you've got some good names, but moonshot all of them, you might get a sale, but it will be rare, right? And if you've got good names and you price them well, you'll get regular sales. And if you've got bad names and you price them well, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I guess that's my view.
Yeah, it's pricing it is tough. Like, I mean, after a while, you make some sales over the years, and you start to get a better gut feel for if you have similar names in your portfolio and you want to see performance. Because that me, I'm the math nerd, right? You might have a domain, a certain category of domains that you price at $10,000, and you might sell one a year, right? But if you price them down to $5,000, you might get 3 sales a year, right? So you're making more money. But at the same time, you might only still sell that one domain and lose 5,000. It really is specific to the domains. You have to price them properly. Like, getting back to what you were saying before, people were complaining about not making sales and all this stuff. I mean, ultimately, if you're not profitable, as a domain investor, there's 3 reasons, right? The first one is exactly that. You're not pricing your domains properly, or you're not even putting a price on it. The second is you're not marketing it properly. It could be like you're not listing on Afternic. That's like the easiest thing, right? You're supposed to do. List on Sedo. If they're brandable, put on a brandable marketplace, all this stuff. Even some stuff I don't even do, but I know I have to do. But it's like you have to do that. If it's the type of domain you bought to outbound, well, then you have to pick up the phone or send the emails or text or whatever it might be. You have to do the work to market your stuff. So if it's not the pricing and if it's not the visibility, then the answer really is the quality of the domains, right? And that's the problem. I was replying to something the other day that Shane posted. I just repinned my response to my profile, and it's really a lot of people. It's almost sometimes an addiction. They keep on doing renewals, or they feel it's a sunk cost, and all that kind of stuff, and they just keep on going and going, and they don't face the reality that maybe these domains are just not appropriate. Maybe they never were, or maybe the conditions changed for those specific domains that maybe they were good in the past and they're not anymore. I mean, for a lot of people, they used to have parking, right? And they're like, oh, okay, so they made money from parking. So maybe the domains made $5 a year, and it cost back then $8 renewals, right? And so in that case, you really only had to sell to make up that $3 difference. Now you have to sell to make up there's no parking, or for most people, very little, then you make up $11 difference. So all of a sudden, it's like almost 4 times as much. And so, yeah, maybe that pool of domains is no longer worth keeping because you don't have enough sell-through rate or high enough multiples to compensate and to make your portfolio profitable and pay all your renewals, because it's a big thing. And that's, it's, again, I see it over and over and over again, that people who are like, oh, it's not working, this and that, and like, then they show me their domains. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. It's like either they're not priced properly, or they're just not good enough. Like, that's, people don't realize that you can't just buy good domains in this business. They have to be great domains, right? It can't be stuff that somebody wants to use as a business. It has to be domains that people want enough to pay 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 20,000, whatever the appropriate price point is from what you bought it at. They have to want to pay that much, and then also they have to be really looking for it hard enough to actually go to some places where it's listed or whatever it is, and sometimes they may not see it. So like we have a really, really big high mountain to we have to overcome to be profitable. And it's like one of the biggest things is the unfortunate truth that most people just aren't being honest with themselves about the quality of the domains in their portfolio, or they just don't know. So it's a big problem.
Yeah, the truth hurts. I mean, my portfolio is not that great. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, when it comes to, I think the best way to see if a name is good is, right, you look at how many other extensions is it registered in, but really how many developed sites are out there, how many people, then just look at Google, how many different companies use this type of name. I mean, this specific, acronym even. It's just, bottom line is, you can, I look at name bio like a lot of folks do, and you start looking at, I guess one of the names I saw that sold today on Atom was CTEM.ai. So they sell a lot of, I see, short names there. And okay, well, I mean, I guess if I, that was for $8,500. A 4-letter, well, I own, great letters like that too. And there's reasons why doesn't ARRD.com sell for 85. I guess the thing is, when you look at DN Journal, the sales, and you look at name bio, the sales, sometimes it's hard to determine, well, is my name, are my names good enough? They're good enough to, I think I got 1,000 that are good enough to renew. Like I just said, I sold last month W1Z for $7,000. Well, so I certainly wouldn't get rid of any of my 3-character, but I don't think they're worth a lot. 1Y4. I mean, stuff like that. I always thought they would. They're worth it for me to renew. I don't mind now. I doubt my portfolio's. I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 names. So me, that's like, bench pressing 300 pounds. Now I'm bench pressing 80. This is nothing, so it's not the cost of maintaining a portfolio of 1,200 names, all.com. Now I got maybe 4 or 5 AI. The point is, so I think I have names that are just worth renewing, but yet it's, and I think it comes back to the pricing. And it's like, yeah, I could just list everything for $1,000 each and let everybody pick off all the good stuff. I'm just, I think, it's almost like I said with poker. I'm like, listen, I'd rather, be, work the room in another way instead of, being an investor, only because I believe what I would need to do is go out and really find better names, but the value just isn't there. Basically, it's like, if would I want to get into domain investing today if I didn't have a few things that I registered more than 15, 20 years ago that I think I can still make a few $100,000, if not $1 million, off of what I have, especially if I got it more aggressive with pricing. And what I mean is lower instead of increase. But I'm like, I just don't, I don't know if, I mean, I think I want to try the higher price and just wait until somebody needs one of these names, REESH.com or TZ, or I got a bunch of 5-letter and 4-letter that I think if somebody really needs them, I know they pay. So it really just need to wait until someone wants, the phrase be anything you want to be, and I'm not trying to get, 100,000 for these goofy ass things. But my point is, if someone really wants a name, I've noticed in the past, they do pay, they'll pay definitely high four figures, but in the five figures, just because that's really what they want. I'm just, I don't know. I mean,
You're bringing up a really great point, Todd,
go ahead.
and that is the names that you got early on are the ones that are worth keeping, and I think something that needs to be brought up is there's a paradigm shift in how the AI is going to affect search and the browser and how people look for brands, and we need to be aware. Going back to how many names they're on Atom or after Nick, and how overwhelming it is when you go there to look at all the options, and then bring into consideration that most people aren't like domainers. There's 57 of us on this page or on this now. We have this genuine love for words and interest in, novelty or what's happening next. But most people have an attention span, like of a goldfish, and they don't have the time. They get overwhelmed, and they're, visually and cognitively shut down. And so it's really a difficult, business for sure. But one of the things that I always am aware of is how poor After Nick landing page is designed for a novice. Maybe for us it's okay, but when you go there, it says, do you want to buy a name or sell a name? You know what I mean? They just give you those two little links, and right there, that's a little off-putting. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I'm like someone coming in from the marketplace and not knowing what is going on in the domain names, and they go, "Yeah, I think I want to buy a name," but it's kind of intimidating already to make that commitment. In my mind, it's set up, and it's not really user friendly. How do you feel about that?
I'm just looking through my portfolio and I'm disgusted. I'm like, then asking prices for the, but to an end user, these asking prices, no matter what it is, are not ridiculous. Because if somebody needs a name, asking 9,888 for just some, I don't know, it's random name. Not even looking at my stuff now. Um, one thing I did take chances on was OD. I always thought OD was going to be on demand. I had a brand before Medsod, Medsod, Meds on Demand. So I always thought OD was going to be a short, a short for on demand. So I owned a bunch of names that, you know, I don't know, Energy OD, Energy on Demand, or even Dinner on Demand, or whatever. So I always like taking chances on, names like that. And then you hope that there's going to be a few popular companies who, like back in the day when Shopify or Spotify, then everybody wants to get IFY names. And you know what? Sometimes if you have great names that work well with it, I think, you talked about that, Brad, with AIFI. But the point is, so I've always, sometimes you take these chances and you hope that other company, somebody big will use a term, and then it does make some other names popular. And I don't mean $100,000 worth popular, but almost like, geez, it does make sense. Other people do know OD stands for on demand. And that's never really happened yet. And, like I said about short keystrokes, it's not really happened yet, meaning, oh no, there's a reason why you want short keystrokes in a name, because you're using it like over at Spaceship for a phone number. Now a 7-digit domain name would be like, if you're using the domain as a phone number, why wouldn't you get your phone number on, as a domain name, if that in fact took off? So there's things, as domainers, now I like to think, what are some future tech, future things that may be worthwhile? My most recent, pay plus like a person's name, or pay plus, instead of all these brandable, or I'm sorry, some of these companies like Get Rocket, since they can't get rocket.com, how about Pay Rocket? In the future, they're going to get paid online. These are just risks. These are, you're really speculating on what are types of names that I could see some company using, making popular, and then it would, but it's just wishful thinking. I mean, I was going
That's
to
what
say,
we're all doing,
yeah,
right? We're all kind to conjure up what it's a risk that we're going to get this name that we like and we think someone else is going to like enough to buy it, right? That's pretty speculative.
stupid. I'm driving a car off a cliff right now. So before I crash, which is going to be in about 5 minutes, because we're going to be done here. Um, anything you want to share? Anybody on
Yeah,
Did you
stage?
want
yeah.
to?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If I could just real quickly, it's kind and thank you, Todd, for having me up here, and Josh. Um, it's kind of like getting a hit record. Okay, there's a million songs. Every songwriter thinks they have the greatest song. I mean, I'll look at all the domain names that are out there that are not hits, but everyone thinks there are. My nephew is in the process of possibly having a hit record. His name is Drew Arthur, and he's in a duo group with Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, and it's called Something Out West. They were just on the Today Show on Jenna and Friends on Monday, and they did their premiere live performance, and then they were on Kelly Clarkson, and their second single called "You Better Run" has over 700,000 hits on YouTube. So I just wanted to share that. Check it out. Something Out West.
Yeah, and I wanted to say all that, and you said it, but your nephew Drew is awesome, and if you guys know, so Chet Hanks, like he said, Tom Hanks' son, was a rapper before, and I mean wrote some hip hop, some rap songs, and now he's doing some country. But so instead of reaching out to you privately, I'm telling you, so I wrote a song, and it's for these guys. It's called Deuce Deuce, and I'm telling you, I know Chet's gonna love it because it's gangster and it lets him know, yeah, believe me, it'll scare everybody in the business. But I mean, I don't know your nephew, but it's perfect for a duo. And these guys turning this, it's perfect for the genre, how they're the country music, and it's really not just country that they're doing, because it's really cool and hip. But anyway,
Right. It's a hybrid kind of thing. Did you see them on Jenna
I
and
did.
Friends?
I did. I
Uh,
saw. I saw. Yeah, I saw all their stuff, and no, I'm impressed that the how Hanks's son converted, got with your nephew, and really changed what type of music he was putting out, because it really sounds good, and I think there's something there, and I think that's why now there's a potential. I know they're really just sort of forming who they are, and you know
Well, they've been together. They've been together with different name groups for a long time, and you're correct. Hanks's reputation as a rapper was not as good, and my nephew Drew is very close with Tom and Rita, and literally pulled Chet out of that into he's my Drew is the main songwriter. You know what I mean? And it's really elevated the whole experience. And they have been together a long time, and they're mature enough now, I think, to be able to ride this to a success without drugs. They're both sober.
Good. Well, yeah, I can't wait. So we'll get Drew on the phone sometime, but I'll just give him the lyrics, and he'll think, "Fuck, this is made. I got it. It's made for those two." But I know.
Yeah, well, no, send it to me,
Okay.
and I could,
Yeah.
check it out. And I could give it to my brother. My brother, Drew's father, my brother, is a recording artist. His first album is on Columbia Records in 1973 with a group called Arthur Hurley and Gottlieb. And his second album is on A&M Records, Arthur Hurley and Gottlieb. He's a great songwriter. So his son has been writing songs since he's been 14 years old.
Okay, we got to get off here in 2 minutes. So Jeremiah, what did you want to say before we get
I know
out?
we didn't really talk about domain sales, but I wanted to at least loop back on Ira's sale, pickmybrain.com and it closed. It was on his white label Atom for 160 and they closed for 128,000.
Babooski, that's pretty big.
Three word .coms. That's, to me, that gives me goosebumps. So
And I'm assuming Ira had that one for, more than a decade. I know
15
that.
years, yeah, so
15,
whatever.
okay. Well, hey, Josh, thanks for joining. I know you're over there partying, doing hardcore partying with the family. But Josh, what do you think? Pickmybrain.com, 128 grand.
I heard that. Wasn't that Zoot's? That was Zoot's sale, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes to what looks like a site where you can go and ask real people questions. So it's interesting.
Pickmybrain.com. Yeah, that's a cool one. I have
I have so many domains like that. That just excites me a lot. I'm going to go this weekend and reprice everything. But yeah.
I think I have like buymybrain.com or something like that. No, huge domain says that one. Priced at like 4K. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, there you go. It's a good name. It was a moonshot price. And sometimes good domains can hit moonshot prices. But it's rare, very rare. And I'm glad I'm happy for Zoot. That's a great sale.
Yeah, Jeremiah, before we go, where did he sell that on? Was it on Afternick with the Buy It Now? Or something?
It was on Atom. And it's private label on Atom.
Jeez, beauty. Private label. So that
Private,
means the low
private label.
commission.
So yeah, low commission. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think he probably don't want me to share, but he did share it. After commission, it was 108 in his pocket. So not bad.
Amazing.
Fucking great for him. I mean, fucking but as a domainer, he's got a lot of great stuff in there. And I mean, he's owned them for a long time. So those are the types of, domainers sometimes that new domain people compete with, and it's hard to do. I think that name, agree with you, Josh, moonshot price on that one. But, geez, anything, it does, if I'm pumped too, I got all sorts of sayings.
If you don't ask for a 6-figure sale, you won't get a 6-figure sale. So
You're leaving me happy. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to price everything real high, and no, I'll come in here next week. I'll PO'd again. All right, Avery, thanks for joining us. That's going to be it for today. The DNX Show. We're here every Thursday. We're going to be here next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we do the Domain Name Law Show too. That's on Tuesdays, but you can catch that. Just follow the people on stage here, just so you can, easily find these rooms. But enjoy the rest of your day wherever you're at. Take care.
Bye, guys.